Today we are going to start with Unit 2. That is, in Unit 2 we will be discussing about chapter number 5 today. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So structural organization in animals is the name of the unit. So structural organization in animals, that is in plants and animals. We are going to learn about structurally, based on structure, how the plants and animals, their bodies are organized. Okay, so we are going to learn about all those things. So the description of diverse forms of life on earth was made only by observation through naked eyes and later through magnifying lens and microscopes. This description mainly of gross structural features. It consisted of gross, how the something is looking based on structure. This description consisted of that, both external and internal features. We are going to study about external features, how an organism, whether it is plant or animal, is looking, or we are going to study about internal structure. Along with that, observable and perceivable living phenomena was also recorded as part of this description. Before experimental biology, or more specifically physiology. Before physiology was established as part of biology, naturalists described only biology. So before physiology came, physiology means observing something based on external features. Before that had come, everybody used to study based on biology. Hence, biology remained natural history for a long time. The description by itself was amazing in terms of detail. While initial reaction of a student could be boredom, initially the student can get bored, one should keep in mind the detailed description was utilized later day reductionist biology, where living processes drew more attention from scientists than description forms. So all this, the description became meaningful. Later, the description of organisms, when you start describing something, initially you may get bored. What is this? We are describing all these basic things. But once you go into detail, once you go in depth, when you start describing things start to become meaningful slowly. So in following chapters, you will be learning about structural organization in plants and animals. You are going to learn about physiological behavioral phenomena, all those. For convenience, the description of morphological and anatomical features presented separately for plants and animals. We are going to study about physiological and anatomical. Morphology means how the organism is looking from the outside. We are going to study about that separately, whereas we are going to study about anatomical features separately. So Catherine Esau was born in Ukraine in 1898 and she studied agriculture in Russia and Germany. She received her doctorate in 1931 in US. She reported early publications she reported in her early publication that curly top virus spreads through plant via food conducting or phloem tissue. There's a virus, curly top virus. It spreads through conducting or phloem tissue. In plants you have xylem and phloem. So through phloem it spreads. Who told that? Catherine Esau. Dr. Esau, Plant Anatomy, published in 1954, took dynamic development approach designed enhanced the understanding of plant structure. Enormous impact it had, bringing the revival of discipline. Anatomy of Seed Plant by Catherine Esau was published in 1960. It was referred to as Webster of Plant Biology. It is an encyclopedia. In 1957, she was selected to be National Academy of Sciences, bringing the 6th woman to receive the honor. She got prestigious awards. She received National Medal in Science from President George Bush in 1989. When Catherine Esau died in year 1997, Peter Raven, Director of Anatomy and Morphology, and this garden remembered that she was absolutely dominated in the field of biology at the age of 99. So let's start the chapter now. Chapter number 5, that is morphology of flowering plants. So the wide range of structural of higher plants will never fail to fascinate you. There are so many wide ranges of plants. It is always going to fascinate us. You are going to study about angiosperms. You are going to study about structure and morphology. You are going to talk about the roots, stems, leaves, flowers and fruits, all these things. So for many successful attempt of classification in higher plant has been done, all that adaptations of various habitats, protection, climbing and storage. So we are going to study about plants, how they get adapted to their environment. So if you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have roots, they have stem, they have leaf, they may be bearing flowers and fruits. The underground part of the flowering plant is called the root system, while the portion above is called shoot system. Next, the root. So first we'll study about root, then we are going to study about shoot system. So there is primary root. Primary root means the main root. Primary root means the main root that is growing. If this is our main root, that is called primary root. From here you are going to have secondary root, and from secondary roots you may have tertiary roots. So the primary branches constitute the taproot system. If you have a primary root, main primary root, and along with that if you have one branches coming out, see you just have here one primary root, this is known as taproot system. Whereas in fibrous root system you will be seeing multiple fibers which are going to come out from one part of the plant. You don't have like secondary, tertiary, you have lot of primary roots only, you will have many fibrous part coming out. So these originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system. So you have the primary root is short-lived in monocot. In dicot you have taproot system, that is one main root. In monocots you have the primary root which is short-lived, and by a large number of roots it is replaced by lot of roots. So it is replaced by lot of roots. Then example is wheat plant. Then in some plants like grass, monstera, banyan tree, roots arise from parts of other. In banyan tree you have seen roots come out from stem, right? So all those are known as adventitious root. If the root is not coming from the bottom of the stem, then it is called as the adventitious root. The main functions of the root system are absorption of water, minerals, providing proper anchorage, getting all the minerals. Roots suck the minerals from the soil, they suck water from the soil, they give support to the plant, they help the plant to stay in its place, hold the plant. Then there is a food material, synthesis of plant growth regulators. They synthesize, this is one main function of the root. They help to synthesize plant growth regulators. Just like we have hormones in our body, plant also have certain hormones which help in the growth of the plant. That is synthesized by the root system. You can see here, this is adventitious roots which are coming out from the stem. This is our taproot system, this is our fibrous root system. So regions of the root, you can study, you can see all the regions. The root cap is on the bottom, thimble-like structure. Thimble means on top of thumb, these people wear a kind of cap while stitching and all. So basically it's nothing but, you can see, just like a cap, that is known as thimble. Okay, on the bottom of the root, you have a cap-like structure which is known as root cap. Next, it protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. It protects the root because the root has to go deep into the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is region of meristematic activity, where the cells are dividing rapidly. That is known as meristematic activity. Meristematic tissues are tissues which grow very fast. So this is known as meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin walled with dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. So they have dense protoplasm inside them, and they are thin walled cells because they want to replicate very fast. And the cells proximal to this region undergo rapid elongation and enlargement. So this is known as region of elongation. So lot of cells will divide, and top of that you have region of elongation which will help the root to become longer. After that you have the region of maturation. Region of maturation is next to the region of elongation. Here the epidermal cells are very fine, delicate thread-like structures. Root hairs also come from that. And here the cells gradually differentiate and mature. In region of maturation, the cells are mature. They are grown up. They are fully formed cells. They are not developing continuously. They are happy now. They have divided rapidly and they have become differentiated. They took a different function, whatever. Differentiation means they have taken a function, what work they want to do. These root hairs absorb water and minerals from the soil. They have root hairs. Next we are going to study about stem. So stem, how does stem differentiate from a root? How can you differentiate a stem from a root? So the stem is ascending part of the axis. It goes upward, root grows downward. It is ascending part. It bears branches, leaves, flowers and fruits. It develops from plumule of the embryo of germinating seed. So seed is having something known as plumule. So this is, for example, our seed. So seed will have a part known as plumule. For example, this is the plumule. This grows up into the stem. So plumule is a part of the seed that grows up into the stem. It has nodes and internodes. Stem has nodes. Nodes means in between it has small strong points, right? You have seen like sugarcane, for example. Sugarcane has some hard structures in between, that is node, and between those hard structures, the part that you can easily eat, that is known as internode. Okay, so otherwise from nodes where stems, other branches can be coming out, that can be node, like that. So the region of the stem where leaves are born are called nodes. From region from where leaves are coming out or other stems are coming out, so that is known as node. Whereas in between them, the between two nodes, the portion is known as internode. The stem bears buds which can be terminal or axillary. It can have buds which are ending on the end. If it is present, it is known as terminal. If it is present on, not on the end, in between, that is known as axillary. Stem is generally green when young and later it becomes woody and dark brown. Initially it's just like coriander. It's green, later it becomes dark brown or woody. The main function of the stem is to spread out branches bearing leaves, flowers, fruits. It conducts water, minerals and photosynthesis. The stem performs storage of food, support, protection and vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation means if you break the stem and if you plant it again, it will develop into a new plant. So it helps to grow a new plant also, the stem, or it can store food, it can supports the plant, right? And it protects the plant. And it helps to transmit, move water, minerals and do photosynthesis also. Leaf now. Leaf. So leaf is lateral, generally flat in structure, borne on the stem. So leaf is present on the stem and it is lateral. It develops at the node and bears bud in its axil. It develops on the node. This part, this is known as node. It comes out from the node and bears a bud in its axil. It can bear a bud on its axil. So the axillary bud later develops into a branch. Axillary bud can develop into branch. See, you can look here. It has a axillary bud. This can develop into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristems and are arranged in acropetal order. Meristematic tissue, the tissue which helps in growing, right? So leaf comes out from that shoot apical meristem. Apical means top, shoot, from the shoot part, from where the stem is forming, from that meristematic, and it is arranged in acropetal order. They are most important vegetative organs for photosynthesis. A typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf base, petiole and lamina. You can see here, this part is known as leaf base, petiole. This lowest part is our leaf base. Then you have our petiole. Then you have our main leaf, that is our lamina. Leaf base, petiole and lamina. So the leaf is attached to the stem by the leaf base, may bear small lateral leaf-like structures called stipules. In monocotyledons, the leaf base extends into a sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. In some leguminous plants, leaf base may become swollen. Leaf base can become swollen in some plants, which is known as pulvinous. Swollen leaf base. This part can become swollen, which is known as pulvinous. The petiole help to hold the leaf blade to the light. It will help to make the leaf blade so that light can fall on it, right? If this petiole was not there, leaf will be very close to the stem and then the light will not fall on it. Petioles allow leaf blade to flutter in the wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to the leaf surface by cooling the leaf. The lamina or the leaf blade is green expanded part of the leaf with veins and veinlet. It is having main veins and from veins you have small veinlets coming out. There is usually a middle prominent vein in the middle, and which is known as the midrib. This part is known as our midrib. Then you have veins. From veins you have tiny veinlet, which are known as veins. Provide rigidity to the leaf blade and act as channels for transport. Because of veins, water can flow, minerals can flow, and food materials can flow. The shape, margin and apex of the leaf surface, extent of incision of lamina varies in different leaves. So how the leaf is cut, that is called as incision of lamina. Some leaves are cut, that is known as our incision. The arrangement of the veins and veinlets on the lamina is known as venation. How the veins and veinlets are attached, it forms a network which is known as reticulate. It can be reticulate venation or it can be parallel venation. If it is going like a network, like a web, then it is known as reticulate venation. If they are parallel, see here, you can look here it is parallel, all the lines are parallel to each other, that is known as parallel venation. Here it is reticulate, it's like a network. Dicotyledonous plants generally have reticulate venation, while parallel venation is in monocot plants. Monocot means plants have, see, you have seen seed, right? Some plant seeds can be broken into two equal half, that is dicotyledonous seed. Whereas monocot seed means monocot, it has only one cotyledon. So such plants are known as monocotyledon. So types of leaf. A leaf can be simple or compound. If it is having entire leaf is one, or when incised, they do not touch the midrib. If it is cut, it is not touching the midrib. The cuts are not touching the midrib. Entire leaf is one, or it is having small cut. That is known as simple leaf. While if the leaf is broken into many leaflet, tiny leaflets, see, you can see here, it is having multiple tiny leaflet, that is known as compound leaf. So it can be pinnately compound or it can be palmately compound. This type of leaf is known as pinnately compound, because here you can see, here from one stem you have beside them multiple leaf, that is pinnately compound, or from one point it is having multiple leaflets, this is known as palmately compound. Common axis, if it is present, it is known as rachis, that common stem from where it is present. And if it is having common point, tip of petiole, like in silk cotton, that is known as palmately compound. Phyllotaxy, how the leaves are arranged, that is known as phyllotaxy. So phyllotaxy can be alternate. So you can see here, one leaf is present, after that there is another leaf present. See, here one leaf will be present, then beside that another leaf will not be present, below that another leaf will be present, then here another leaf will be present, here another leaf will be present. This is known as alternate type. Whereas if you talk about opposite type, here it is simple, here one leaf, opposite to that another leaf, here another leaf, opposite to that another leaf. Whereas if you talk about world, in world multiple leaves are present in one point, that is known as world. So you can see the examples. This is usually three type: alternate, opposite and world. In alternate type, single leaf arises at each node. In China rose, mustard and sunflower, in one node only one leaf will be present. Whereas opposite type, a pair of leaves come out. Example, calotropis and guava plant. If more than two leaves are coming from one node, that is known as world. Example, alstonia. Inflorescence is nothing but, we are going to talk about a flower is modified shoot. About the flower, the shoot apical meristem arises into floral meristem. Internodes do not elongate and axis is condensed. The apical meristem produces different kind of floral appendages. Floral appendages. So when shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of the flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. How the flowers are arranged on the floral axis, that is known as inflorescence. Depending on the apex gets to grow into a flower, continues to grow. Two major types of inflorescence are defined: racemose and cymose. Two types of inflorescence you have. Racemose type of inflorescence is the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in petal succession. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence it is limited growth. So this is our axis, okay. So in racemose type of inflorescence, the main axis will continue to grow. This main axis keeps growing. But whereas if you talk about cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis will end with a flower. Here a flower will be present. But here flower will not be present. Flowers will be present over here. So it can keep growing. The flowers are born in basipetal order. The flower is reproductive unit in the angiosperms. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A flower has 4 different types of whorls arranged successively, swollen, stalk or pedicle, called thalamus or receptacle. So from where the flower is coming, that end is known as thalamus or receptacle. There is calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Calyx is the down, sepal. Corolla is the petal. Androecium is the male part. Gynoecium is the female part. Calyx and corolla are accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium are reproductive organs. In some flowers like lily, calyx and corolla are not distinct. The sepal and petal is not distinct. You have seen lily. It's a green color part, directly the flower grows. So they are not distinct. And that is known as perianth. Like example lily, where the sepal and petal is not separate. That is known as perianth. While a flower is having both androecium and gynoecium, it can be bisexual. If it is having both male and female part, it is known as bisexual. A flower which is having only either stamen or carpel. Either it is having only stamen or it is having only carpel. That is known as unisexual. In symmetry, flower can be actinomorphic, that is radial symmetry. Zygomorphic, bilateral symmetry. Radial symmetry means flower can be cut from any axis into equal parts. Zygomorphic means bilateral symmetry. You can cut it only from the middle. When a flower can be divided into 2 equal halves in radial plane through center, it is said to be actinomorphic. Radial symmetry, from any axis you can cut, that is known as actinomorphic. Example is mustard, dhatura and chili. And zygomorphic is bilateral symmetry. Example pea, gulmohar and bean, cassia. Pea, gulmohar, bean and cassia. A flower is asymmetrical. It cannot be divided into 2 equal halves from wherever you cut it. So example is kanna. C-A-N-N-E, kanna or kanna, whatever you call it. So a flower can be trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous. It can be tri, tetra or pentamerous based on how many floral appendages it is having, okay. So it can have 3, 4 or 5 respectively. Flower with bracts, reduced leaf. Some flowers have a small leaf-like structure at the base of the pedicle, that is known as bracteate. Without them, the flowers which are present, that is known as ebracteate. You can see all this position of floral parts of thalamus, hypogynous. This is known as hypogynous type of flower, whereas this is known as perigynous. Both of these. And this type of flower is known as epigynous. See here, all the parts are present above, up. That is known as epigynous. Perigynous means this petal and these parts are present above, right? Here all are present equally. That is known as hypogynous. Based on position of calyx, corolla and androecium in respect to the thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. In hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position. See, you can see here. This is on the topmost position. That is known as hypogynous. Situated below it, the ovary of the flower is said to be superior. Example, mustard, china rose, brinjal. Perigynous example, you can see gynoecium situated in the center and other parts are located on the rim of the thalamus, almost the same level. This example is plum, peach. Epigynous example, margin, you can see here. Sunflower, guava, cucumber.